max difficulty boss. Wait, dude, my Mirage is killing the boss. Yeah, Mirage kind of pumps. Hey guys, so this is gonna be my league start guide for Ice Shot / Snipe Deadeye. I'll try to go with a full endgame guide here. Of course, like always, I will have a separate video for the leveling guide. There is some level stuff to go over. That'll probably be in a day or so after this one comes out. So yeah, let's talk about Ice Shot Deadeye and why I'm playing this build of this league. So first things first, let's go with the changes. In 0.4, Ice Shot got substantial buffs. We got more secondary projectiles, it got more damage from the secondary projectiles, more cold conversion, which is more damage because it scales LE damage, and more chill magnitude. On top of all that, Snipe also got roughly a 10% more damage buff. So you might be wondering, why is Ice Shot so meta now? Big reason is it got Giga buffed in 0.4, but it was kind of overshadowed by like the poison stuff at the time. Everyone was playing Pathfinder. But now that Pathfinder is nerfed and this build's really not touched at all, pretty much becoming the meta bow build. So what are the 0.5 changes? So there's some slight nerfs here, but most of them do not matter. So Ice Shot secondary projectiles lost some more free split up. This nerf is completely irrelevant. This changes nothing. This doesn't really affect the main hit of Ice Shot. So how Ice Shot works is that when you hit a target, there's a main hit and then the secondary projectiles that shoot after. The secondary projectiles lost some more free split up, but the main hit didn't. So for bosses, you're not losing any free split up. I guess it's like some maybe pack clearing free split up you lost. But overall, I think this change doesn't matter whatsoever. I'm not really sure what the point of this change was. Snipe received a level nerf. It was around 18% less damage at low levels. But with that said, they actually buffed it for endgame. So beyond level 20, so level 21 and above, Snipe actually does more damage than before, which is kind of insane because on my test character here, which I'll show in a second, I'm already one-shotting pinnacle bosses with a level 21 Snipe. And this character is extremely budget that I'll show in a second. Freezing Salvo lost some freeze split up. This only affects campaign. I don't use this skill in endgame, so it's, whatever, this change doesn't really matter. It's just a slight level nerf. At need testing, but Mirage Archer now works with Snipe. This could be a good alternative for bossing instead of self-casting Snipe yourself, but it is a lot less damage. But this could be a nice option. We'll see how this works when it goes live. Now let's go with the pros and cons of Ice Shot. I think there's a lot of pros of Ice Shots. The first things first, and I think it's the most important when playing a build, it just has an extremely feels good play style. As soon as you get to level 31, it's just extremely satisfying to play, freezing everything, held of ice explosions. It really is just a very feels good build to play. No clunk whatsoever, pretty much like all Ranger builds. It has roughly 40% more hit damage than Light Arrow, so generally it does feel like a pretty strong bow skill. So for clearing early on, that 40% more hit damage when clearing pack to pack is very, very noticeable when compared to Light Arrow. Insane single target boss damage. With good gear, you're easily going to one-shot every single boss in the game. On my test character, which is non-crit, very low budget, I can already one-shot each phase of Arbiter. Like the first version that is. Of course, Uber Order would require more gear. We'll eventually transition into a 1 and 2 button playstyle. So it's really, really nice for people that like, a low amount of button presses. You perma chill and freeze everything, which is a nice added defensive layer that you usually don't have as other bow builds. And also your Ice Shot has more chill magnitude as well. So you get like pretty high chills, which is really, really nice. When you're slowing stuff by like 50% chill, but it's 50% act speed penalty on monsters, it really is a nice defensive layer. And we still have the Held Up Ice / Armor Explosion Chain. For some reason, this was not nerfed. I honestly thought Held Up Ice / Armor Explosion Infinite Chain would have been nerfed, but it's not nerfed, meaning we get to abuse it this patch. There's a few ways to do this. I'm not gonna go over in this build because it's more of like an end game thing. But yeah, essentially you just get infinite Held Up Ice Chain. So yeah, it's very, very strong. It's really, really fast for mapping. And I was surprised it was not nerfed. It is more of an endgame thing. And easily one of the strongest league starters. It is just absolutely insane for bossing and it's extremely good for mapping. Definitely all content viable. As you know, my builds, I've made plenty of builds with PoE2 already. All my builds are all content viable. I scale it all the way from league start all the way to like you get end game, right? Now as for the cons here, really only 2 cons. Early on, you can be squishy. Pure life evasion is still weak in my opinion. It didn't really fix it this patch. It is fixed once you go hybrid, but once again, we are going ES evasion hybrid. And once you go hybrid, your tankiness is solved. You're good to go. When you have like 4 to 5k life ES combined, you no longer really feel squishy. Other weakness, you have to practice the perfect aim on Snipe. This is honestly very easy to get used to, but also you never played it before. You probably do have to practice for like 5 or 10 minutes. It's all of your boss damage early on. Eventually, with enough gear, you can drop Snipe and just kill bosses with Ice Shots by itself. That is a higher gear requirement. That is not something you're going to do like day 1, day 2. Yeah, perfect Snipe, just to show it real quick how this works. It's like the main damage of this whole build for both campaign and end game. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is hold down a button. When you glow, you let go, and that's it. So yeah, I mean, you can just get used to this. It scales at your attack speed, so you do have to get used to new attack speed values when you get attack speed upgrades. But yeah, as soon as you glow, you let go, and that's it. It's pretty linear timing as well. Like I said, just do it a few times at hideout, and you get used to it very, very easily. Of course, you can also take out the window of opportunity. This gives you 35% shorter per time window, but 35% more damage. So if it is hard for you, take this out, put another support gem, and that will help you. It's honestly, like I said, not that bad to get used to. You just practice it a little bit. Like always, I have the full Mobalytics guide done. This guide is mostly done. I just need to put in like the end game version and crit swap version, but we got the early non-crit and non-crit hybrid swap setups, which I will go over in this video. So one thing I want to show real quick is the budget of this character. In the showcase you probably saw at the start of the video, is that I made an extremely budget, low gear character. In fact, this gear is worse than what my character had last day one. So this character is extremely low gear. You can probably expect that around to have this gear, I don't know, maybe like 15 to 20 hours of slash playtime. So, you know, for how many days that is for you, it is extremely low gear. The best gear is the bow right here, which is honestly not even that insane. Tier 3% fizz, tier 4 flat, and then essence for +3. Of course, that essence is going to +2 next patch. Also have a bow crafting guide in the notes as well. But yeah, as for the rest of the gear, it is just pretty bare bones. This helmet is just like, you know, life, resist, and that's kind of really it. I guess some evasion. The mana doesn't matter. The text doesn't matter. And obviously the life regen does not matter. Quiver, we have a tier 8 flat. That's bad. Tier 2 flat, which is good. Tier 3 with increased bow damage and attack speed. Other two stats don't matter. But as you can see, the gear is just pretty, you know, mid, right? This is very, very realistic gear. And on this gear, I killed the quest version of Arbiter. I one-shot both his phases, and I've done max difficulty with empowered bosses on the Atlas, and I've one-shot them. So all the boss nodes plus boss difficulty. I have a map here to showcase, to show you. But yeah, with this low amount of gear investment, I think this total character, I would probably aim it around like 5 divines-ish, around there. It is very, very cheap. It is not that expensive whatsoever. Like the most expensive piece here is going to be the bow, and it's probably going to be like 2 or so divines to make yourself, which once again will be in the crafted notes. Okay, here's this boss showcase just real quick. This is max difficulty boss. Got freeze him and then snipe, and that's it. Max difficulty boss, easy killed. So yeah, this character, even on a low budget, you're going to just completely destroy the game with no issue whatsoever. I assume he probably had like 6 or 7 million HP, not too sure. That's usually what the master difficulty bosses have. But yeah, this is an extremely strong character, even on a very, very low budget. The boss damage on this build is so high, and I'm pretty confident to say with this gear, if you copy this gear 1-to-1, but like I said, should be like around like 5-ish divines total, you should be able to kill at the very least every single quest pinnacle boss in the new end game. Now, of course, to kill like the harder endgame version, you probably will need to upgrade your gear. By the baseline, I'm really confident that anyone can choose to set up within like 20 hours or so slash played, assuming you can do campaign in, let's say, I don't know, 8-9 hours, which I think is pretty reasonable. Of course, if you take more time for campaign, then that might be a little longer for you. But you understand what I'm saying, right? It's just extremely realistic gear that I feel like anyone can achieve. And this base version of the character should be able to kill every single quest pinnacle boss. Yeah, so it should be a very, very nice league starter. Even if you're someone who doesn't make a lot of currency, because it's still just a very strong build at a low base value. This is, you know, non-crit, pure life, evasion setup, just the cheapest form of the version you can play. So yeah, let's go over the Mobalytics real quick. All the skill gems and our skill tree, which I guess I can also do in game as well. But yeah, I always keep my Mobalytics updated. If you follow my builds from my leagues, it's always very, very in depth. Craft rewards here and as well. Gear progression, also have a crafting guide down here as well. This is where the crafting would be. But yeah, all very in depth. So let's go over the skill tree first. So I want to quickly talk about the skill tree and what we're doing here, and also the swaps you're going to do later on, because there is some important stuff to talk about, especially with weapon swapping, which is something you have to do, and it's very, very important for this build. So yeah, it's a pretty basic bow tree. They all look pretty similar, right? You just take all the generic nodes. Important stuff here, so we are taking some freeze build up. Freeze build up is very, very good early on. Eventually, you probably will drop these freeze build up nodes as you get stronger and stronger, but they do help freezing bosses when your character is weak, so these are nice to take. Besides that, since we're pure evasion on this low budget build character, we're taking all these evasion nodes, some deflection nodes as well. These are very, very strong nodes, especially Beastal Skin with a high evasion chest. And do keep in mind, all evasion pieces are being buffed next patch by 30 to 15%. So like this chest right here is level 62. We'll probably have around like 30% more evasion next patch. So it's gonna be over 2K base evasion. So if you're on a lower budget, your gear is still gonna be quite effective. which makes Beazle skin even better. Then we also take these previous build up notes as well. Like I said, it's just very, very nice to have these early on. You can eventually drop them, but for early game, they are pretty good. Now, the important thing to talk about here is this weapon swap stuff. So we have weapon swap 1 and weapon swap 2, and this is also shown on the Mobalytics as well. You can see set 1, set 1, set 1, set 1, and set 2. Just follow this, and then these don't really matter. So what is this and what are we doing here? So weapon swap 1, which is all the damage nodes, and then weapon swap 2, we are doing a mark setup. So we have these nodes right here, has enemies take 10% increased damage, mark skill effect duration, mark use speed, increase mark effective skills, and also some movement speed here and mana cost efficiency of marks, which is very nice because the mark can be a little bit expensive. Then we also have on top of that, magnitude of ailments you inflict against mark targets. We have 45% here, and we get 2 mark buff effects. These do more as extra damage. And then we also have shock here as well. That's quite a bit of shock magnitude. We have 75% shock magnitude here. So this is all for weapon set 2, and the only skill you want to use in weapon set 2 is gonna be your freezing mark. So what you want to do, like I said, it's very, very easy. You put all your damage and skills. So your ice shot, when I weapon set 1, take off 2. Snipe 1 over 2. And then same with ice tipped arrows. And then same with tornado shot. And then all the auras you want on both weapon set 1 and weapon set 2 so they don't deactivate. And then freezing mark is only one you want on weapon set 2. And this is because freezing mark just gives you a ton of buffs. This single skill right here pretty much doubles your damage when using it properly. So it's linked to prolonged duration, eternal mark, charge mark, and mark of siphoning. Just a massive, insane skill for this build. So it's more than 30% adds extra damage because we have mark effect. I think it's roughly around 37% adds extra cold damage, a lot more damage. Charge mark, when your mark triggers, this mark triggers when you freeze the enemy, which you need to do to snipe anyway. You shock the target, make shock ground. So since we make shock ground, this scales all this magnitude of shock. So as you saw in that last boss, which if you didn't see, we had a 44% shock. So we're getting 37% as extra cold damage from this. Enemies are taking 10% increased damage, and we're getting a 47% shock. So as you can see, the freezer mark is just pretty much almost doubling, if not doubling our damage versus bosses. It's just absolutely insane because we're taking all these weapon set 2 mark nodes. Yeah, this is very, very important to set up, and it's just very, very easy. There's weapon set 2, all your mark stuff here, and it's weapon set 1, the damage nodes. All the red lines are weapon set 1, then all the faded green lines are weapon set 2. But yeah, it's very, very important just to do this. Make sure to always in the correct weapon set because it's just so much damage when you set this properly. It is pretty much like 2x damage for a single target. It really, really is huge. And this buff is nice for mapping because we have so much duration on this. This buff is lasting for around 20 to like 22 seconds. So you press it once every 20 seconds of mapping and you get this huge damage buff. It's just very, very good. It's probably the most important part of this build next to Snipe. So as for the Ascendancy, we are choosing Deadeye, of course. I think Deadeye is just a superior choice for Amazon, mainly because of Tailwind. Tailwind is just really, really strong still. There's a ton of evasion, a ton of skill speed, and a ton of moving speed. Also to note is that, Amazon did get nerfed this patch because they did nerf Leech. So it's really hard to say if the Amazon Leech stuff is even still worth doing. Yeah, besides that, the +1 projectile early on is just so incredibly powerful. Going from 1 to 2 proj is just a massive difference, and going from 2 to 3 is also just massive, right? So right now on this test character, I have 2 proj with a 50% chance to fire 3. Now, of course, you can also get more. If you got 50% on your bow, that would give you 3 arrows guaranteed. Or you could also spec into these nodes as well, if you did want to, for a guaranteed 3 arrows. But yeah, the +1 arrow is just so massive that early in the mid game when you don't really have plus arrows anywhere else. Point blank, just 20% more damage. You choose to point blank here because for Snipe, you're generally pretty close to the boss, but you can choose far shot for mapping as well. Gather wins, like I said, Tailwind is insane. Just gives a ton of skill speed, move speed, and evasion. And if you weren't aware, Tailwind also got a defense buff in 0.4 where you get more damage reduction when you deflect, and you are taking deflect in this build. So yeah, it's just overall, this node is just absolutely insane. And then of course, Mirage Deadeye, which came last patch. Didn't really get to playtest it all that much last patch. I put it a lot in the past week, and I honestly quite like it. The other option is called shots, but the issue with called shots is that you can't do the weapon swap stuff, which makes you lose a lot of damage. So I didn't really like it all that much. Mirage is quite nice. In the Mirage, we do have an ice shot setup. So ice shot, elemental armaments, rapid attacks, delimitation, and cooldown recovery. Recovery does make this spawn more often. It is honestly pretty nice for map clear, gives you more freezing for bosses, and I honestly do kind of like it. Of course, you could go call shots if you want to press one less button, but like I said, it does not work with the weapon swap. So you would lose a ton of damage if you did use cold shots instead of the weapon swap for self-cast and freezing mark. And as for skills, I won't go over all the gems here. There's important ones. It's just Ice Shot here with Ice Bite. This is important because you're going to freeze the boss with Ice Shot, get that 30% as extra cold damage, and then use Snipe. For Snipe, we have Window of Opportunity, Conk, Elemental Armaments, Focus, and Close Combat. There's just nothing good to put in a 6th slot here, so Close Combat's kind of like the best one, although it does require you to be pretty close to the boss. When you do go crit, you do have really solid options here, but yeah, before crit swap, this is kind of your best option. Now, once again, like I said before, Window of Opportunity does make this perfect window, shorter, right? It makes it a little bit hard to do. So if you can't do this, then just take out this for another gem instead. Any gem that gets damage would be okay here. It's easier to swap this when you go crit, because when you go crit, you do have more damage and gem options. Freezer Mark, already talked about this. Barrage, you just have Rapid Cast in, Perpetual Charge, and cooldown recovery. Something to note with the Snipe combo, and I'll explain this, but essentially the combo is for bosses. You want to freeze them as fast as possible. So usually what I'll do is Tornado Shot, Ice Tipped Arrows, spam Ice Shot. When they're frozen, you barrage, then snipe. And also, you do want to snipe into Tornado Shot, so put a Tornado Shot on top of the boss. Hope you'll pretty much get like almost like 2x hit. But yeah, you only want to barrage with snipe. That is what it's there for. This does combo, and this does do a multi-hit on the boss, and they all get the freeze and blast consume. So yeah, it's snipe. The reason why you want to freeze is for Icy Blast. Icy Blast does all the damage. If you do a snipe without them being frozen, it does like no damage. They need to be frozen. And if you barrage while they're frozen, they all get the same benefit of the target being frozen. Yeah, barrage into snipe. It's just very important for all your damage. Ice Tipped Arrows. This skill is kind of optional later on, but it is nice for the early game. But yeah, later on you can drop this. It just gives you some extra free split up, which is pretty important early on when your damage isn't that high. You have Short Fuse, Elemental Armaments, Mag Area, and Long Shot. This is one of the skills you do drop pretty early because, yeah, you eventually don't need this. You have Herald of Ice, Elemental Focus, Magnified Area, Cold Attunement, and Elemental Armaments. Just extremely nice. Herald of Ice is very nice to play with. Then we have our Spirit Marge Archer. This one is optional, but I do like it. So this one has Ice Shot, Elemental Armaments, Deal Rotation, and Rapid Attacks. And then Combat Frenzy with Charge Perfusion. The Frenzies is for barrage. Well, the more frenzies you use a barrage, the more repeats you get, which is the more damage you give at snipe. So barrage gives you 2x damage on snipe. With 3 frenzies, it gives you 3.5 times more damage. So, it is a massive multiplier to your single target. So it is very important to use it. And it's important to have frenzies at least early on. Now for the 2 Mirage Archers. So how Mirage Archer works, your Ascendancy one, which is free. This is free. It's also because of free 6 link at level 90. This is a level 90 test character. This one activates when you attack. So it just pretty much activates all the time, right? This one no setup. The other Mirage Archer, the Spirit one, this is optional to use, but I also do kind of like it. This one activates when you dodge roll, and you can have both at the same time, and they both cast your Ice Shot, which is honestly both quite nice for bossing and quite nice for clearing. You just have like extra health for clearing, while dodge roll and while attacking, because you dodge roll all the time while clearing a map anyway, right? You don't really have to like pay attention to it. You don't have to min-max it. You just get it all the time. Yeah, that is the skill setup. Now to quickly go over some Mobalytics stuff. Once again, I'll be constantly updating this out throughout the league, as I always do. Also, all the other endgame setups here as well. But yeah, you start off as a very early on non-crit, pure life evasion-based build, the cheapest version of this build. Make sure to read the notes here. But yeah, I did not fill out the suffixes in here because you want to fill out the suffixes yourself, and I give you some good suggested stats to go for. On your rings, you want life, double flat, fizz, and cold are your 2 best ones you can get here. For your suffixes, just fill out your resist. You want 75% fire, cold, and lightning resist. Chaos resist is good, but not mandatory. I usually aim for like 30 to 50% chaos resist, but yeah, there's a lot of suffixes I left open here. This is when I fill them out. It doesn't really matter where you get them. You can have fire resist on your boots, you can have fire resist on your ring, right? It doesn't really matter. Just get it where you get it. As for the quiver, you're looking for cold damage to attacks, or physical damage to attacks, or projectile speed, damage to bow skills. Just 3 nice prefixes. On the suffixes, you just want attack speed. +1 to projectile skills is good, but it is nerfs this patch. +1's the highest you can get now, so it's honestly not that important. Yeah, you just really want 3 good prefixes on the quiver, and you're pretty much good to go. Bow, you want the highest fizz bow you can get. So I wanted to give a quick update on the bow, because while making this video, they did, drastically nerf crafting and how you make weapons and all that. So just a quick update on this bow. This was the bow that was used for the trick of this video, and before the crafting nerf, this was extremely easy to make. Where it's just percent fizz, you would essence for flat fizz, and then you use 2 essence for +3 attack and onslaught. Now this was tier 4, so it's actually worse than the essence, and it doesn't have a 3rd prefix either. But honestly, it wasn't ethical even post nerf. But I did also make this new bow post crafting nerfed, and essentially this is just flat fizz, black cold, which I just got from an Exalt. So I all got flat fizz on a bow. On the percent fizz, even though it's a low percent fizz, it's still good enough. And then use the essence. The 1 essence only on this bow is the +2 attack, which is going to be +2 next patch. Don't care for the attack speed. Attack speed does not affect snipe damage at all. And you can see even with this, the new bow crafting method that you will probably do next patch, the damage is still also pretty much the same as I can show right here. Average damage is 11.4, 7.4. This goes to average per use 12.553. So yeah, even with the crafting nerf, don't worry, the bow is still going to be exactly just as good as next patch, at least for early on. Of course, getting like a higher end bow, it's going to be way more expensive next patch. But the showcase bow I did use for this video was at least pretty ethical. It is still going to be a pretty easily and cheap to get yourself. I really don't expect more than like 2 or 3 devices to spend this bow for self-crafting. All you do is pick up white bases on the ground, all transmute. You'll eventually hit like tier 1 flat fizz, tier 2 flat fizz, or like tier 4, tier 3% fizz, and then you just go from there. It is very, very simple, very easy to get a very basic bow going. But of course, getting that crit bow in the late game is going to be a lot more expensive this patch with the crafting nerfs. If you're not sure what the crafting nerfs are, just go check out one of my latest videos. As for your amulet, to play this version of the build, you need an amulet with at least 30 spirit, and if you can get it, plus level projectile skills is good, and then just get like resist and life, right? But yeah, if you don't have plus 30 spirit on your amulet or plus 30 spirit on your chest, you will have to drop Rod Archer and you'll use Wind Dancer instead until you get the spirit. Then helmet, just life, also get rarity if you can get rarity, and then just resist. Gloves, this is a good place to get flat and attack speed as well. Attack speed is an optional stat here, but flat is very, very strong, like on all attack builds, especially on bow builds. Flat, it just gives you a ton of damage, so you want to get flat everywhere you can. It's physical and cold damage are your 2 best flats, but lightning is also okay as well. You do want physical and cold damage for attacks. Those are the 2 preferable ones. Belt, until head enter, you just want a life and strength belt. You can fill out 2 resist slots here. There's not really much else to do on the belt slot. Then you want a Thorn Charm, Silver Charm, and Dowsing Charm. These are pretty much the 3 best. And later on, you can upgrade these to the unique versions, Nascent Hope and Fall the Axe. This gives you Onslaught, and this gives you ES recharge when it gets used. So these are also pretty nice as well. Boots and chest, getting deflection rating here is nice. Gain deflection rating equal to 20% evasion rating. This is gonna be a lot of defense. It's pretty nice to get on both boots and chest. And of course, you want the highest moonsuit boots you can afford, followed by life before going hybrid. And then do note, when you do swap to hybrid, you really only swap out 2 pieces here. One, you want the highest ES helmet you can afford, usually aiming for around 400 to a 450 ES helmet. The higher it's even better. This gives you more drive your ES. It's very important to have a good ES helmet. And then you usually want hybrid boots over life-based boots, just for more ES and more evasion rating. And you still want to keep that deflection rating if you can. Those are only 2 swaps, so it's a very easy, hybrid swap. It's just a helmet and just boots, and that's really it. Very, very low investment, but it's something you usually can't do right away because you do require like 115 intelligence, and it does require that high ES helmet. So yeah, it's not something you do right away, but it is something you do want to eventually do. Once you eventually do go hybrid, you pretty much more than double your max hit. It gives you a ton of defense, and despite the ghost dance nerfs, it is extremely good next patch. It's still more likely to be the way to play endgame rangers unless ward ends up being OP, which I'll keep you updated, of course, if that is going to be true. Then yeah, that's mostly about it. Once again, I'll have my separate level 1 video going over this build, and of course I'll have like my day 1, day 3, day 5 updates. Like always, I always constantly update my Mobalytics and constantly update with my videos. So I always take you along from league start journey all the way to a multi-mirror character. But yeah, like I said, that's mostly about it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, but I do expect Deadeye to definitely be one of the best builds next patch.